Hello, and welcome back to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. This week we have Broc Edwards joining us. Listen in as Broc shares about his entrepreneurial mindset and his journey into the financial field. We hope you enjoy. How's it going, Broc?
It's going well. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh yeah, great to have you on. I'll kind of let you start off by introducing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, shout out to Professor Schiestel, one of my favorite professors when I was a student at Michigan State.
Yeah.
And glad to see he's still leading the charge strong with the wealth management team. So, yeah, my name is Broc Edwards. I was born and raised in East Lansing, Michigan. Context to that, obviously, is coming to Michigan State and being close to home and being a Michigander first and foremost. Grew up in a kind of a family that ran a small business. So business and entrepreneurship was something that was really key to my heart and really led the path of what I'm doing now. Went to Michigan State, was fortunate enough to be part of the business college and learned a lot through a lot of great professors and a lot of very talented students I was around. Went out to Wall Street and worked in investment banking for a number of years doing M&A and other transactions, primarily for industrial companies. Left that, founded my own startup. That went pretty well for a while and ended up exiting that. After that, launched a venture fund in Lansing called Exit Quotient Ventures. Was doing some kind of M&A and then one-off consulting and advisory work, and then ended up getting into the private equity space a little bit more recently. In December 2023, we were fortunate enough to close our first platform deal, a demolition construction services business that operates primarily in mid-Michigan, Lansing, Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids. So plenty busy. 2017 MSU grad, which the more the years go by, it seems older and older, but yeah, that's good memories back then, and certainly learned a lot and continue to learn every day.
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify, you're running 3 or 4 of those businesses still today, right?
It's a juggling act for sure. Yeah, we've got the venture fund, we've got the demo business, kind of formalize some of the mentorship and coaching I do with students. There's kind of a hold co that does some investing of its own, so it's certainly busy, but it's all good.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And that kind of leads me to my first question. What are your roles in all those companies, still looking back at them now?
Yeah, so for most of them, I'm the leader, whether you want to call it the president, CEO, managing member, kind of depending on which one it is. There's a little bit of a nuance, but yeah, I'm one of the people that's kind of leading the charge and focusing on driving results and casting the vision for where we're going and what the goal is for the next 3, 5, 10 years. It can be a lot from time to time, but it's good to have good supporting teams and really building out the structures to be supported.
Yeah, very cool. And how do you balance your time between these companies that you're all kind of working with?
Yeah, so time management certainly crucial. I think Elon Musk said it really well on an earnings call, and someone asked him, he's doing a lot more than I am certainly, and they asked him, how do you manage your time amongst all these companies? Right, you got X, you got Tesla, you got SpaceX, amongst others. And he said, I'm focused on solving one issue a week in each one of those companies. And I get to the end of the year and I would have solved 52 critical issues that are able to transform the direction of the company. And that's the mindset that I've tried to take on. Certainly, I'm not juggling as much as he is, so I'm trying to solve more than just one issue, but really focusing on the core issues of each of those businesses or each of those endeavors, and doing my best to help the team where they need help, where they need guidance, what direction we're going in is kind of the main focuses. So the venture fund, to get more granular, the venture fund, certainly focusing on our due diligence and the processes there, analyzing investments, making sure we're doing our best to vet those, potential portfolio companies. On the demo business, it's, leading the charge. We've got 40 employees, give or take, and I help manage the chaos over there. There's always interesting things going on, but, helping run the day-to-day a little bit, focusing on the financial side, making sure we have a game plan and work, to keep us pushing forward is huge. And then some of the other ancillary things is kind of just one-off, mentoring, coaching, and, investing on my own.
Very cool. So kind of getting deeper into that as well, what does the day in the life of Broc really look like?
Depends on the day. To walk you through this week, for example, on Monday, we left Lansing at 7 a.m. We drove to Ionia. We were looking at a big prison job to demo a huge prison in Ionia. We were there until 2 p.m. Came back, had some meetings and all that kind of stuff. We have an office in Lansing and Detroit, so I kind of bounced back and forth between the two. Yesterday, we were looking at some houses up in Flint that we were preparing a bid for. So we were driving around Flint most of the day. Wednesdays are typically kind of a venture fund day for me. So a lot of pitch meetings and working with our team. So no 2 days are the same. The calendar looks a little crazy. I've started to try to get into a little bit more of a weekly routine. So Mondays are very meeting focused. Tuesdays a little bit more kind of deep work, getting to-dos and projects done. And the rest of the week kind of ends up being what it's being. So no 2 days are the same, which keeps it interesting, but sometimes it can be hard to get in a rhythm, with all that as well.
Yeah. And it seems like you're always kind of prioritizing the most important task at the time for, really all of your companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one, key piece of advice for students, really anybody in general, is just the importance of time management. And it's funny looking back on your time as a student, right? You feel like you're overwhelmed with stuff. You got exam week and everything else. And you get beyond school and you realize, wow, I really didn't have that much going on. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the men's golf program when I was at Michigan State, and juggling practice times and all that stuff added a layer of complexity to a normal college student schedule. But I think it really set the groundwork for me of understanding how to manage time. And I'm a stickler with my calendar. I mean, people will make fun of me that after a meeting, if it runs long, I'll adjust the calendar time to make sure it captures the time that we were in the meeting. But it helps me stay diligent, it helps me stay focused, and reflecting on the days, I know exactly where I spent my time, which is certainly crucial.
Yeah. It seems like it would be very important, especially, having multiple businesses that are kind of looking to you for different things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much time for doom scrolling. I don't really own a TV or have time for streaming or anything else. We're going pretty hard and hitting the pillow at night pretty tired, but it's all good.
Yeah, day well spent.
Absolutely.
So if I understand correct, you're also on the finance advisory board for Michigan State. How does that look for you? What does it look like really being on that board?
Yeah, so it's a full circle moment for me, which is really cool. You go through Michigan State and you have some unique opportunities, and to be on the other side of that, whether it's sponsoring an event or coming to speak to a class, you get some cool chances to get back to students. And the financial advisory board position, when I was a junior and senior at Michigan State, in Professor Schiestel's securities analysis class, which she was doing at the time, we had the opportunity to pitch kind of some of our stock pitches for the FAB. And I distinctly remember going to the Henry Center over by the Acres, West Golf Course, and sitting there as a student, kind of nervous. You're around all these professionals, and was fortunate enough. John Steffen, reached out to me. He's a kind of a new and prominent member of the Broad community, and he reached out and invited me to be an attendee at a meeting, kind of at the end of last semester, so the end of the spring semester. And I was fortunate enough to have a really good meeting and met a lot of good people, and talked about how I could get more involved, and that kind of evolved into a board position. So it's awesome being able to hear what's going on, within the Broad College, is also trying to help, not necessarily steer the direction, but provide insight and guidance, and, share how we might be able to do things better. I mean, nothing better is Spartans helping Spartans.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We always love to see that as well. I've realized, the alumni, especially at Michigan State, just love reaching out to current students and making sure that they can help us in whatever ways possible. So I love hearing that you're one of them as well.
Yeah, I think that's the unique thing about Michigan State is the strength of the alumni network, right? I think most students who reach out to alumni, I would hope, I guess most of my interactions was this way when I was a student, but most alumni are more than willing to help, whether it's, networking advice or career advice or anything in between. Really just taking that plunge as a student and being willing to take the chance and sending a cold email or a cold phone call. It's amazing what that can turn into. But being on the other side of that, like I said, is super fulfilling, helping students.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of build off of that, actually. What can you recommend to students, both, kind of starting their own business or working within the financial industry as a whole?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. The first one is network. I was fortunate enough to speak to Professor Hadlock's class actually last night, and they asked a similar question. And networking is so crucial. It helps you understand what you want to do in your career and life. And there's no easier time than as a student to network. It gets a little more awkward when you're post-college and someone, slides into your LinkedIn DMs and it's about lead generation or marketing, services, or it's just harder. When you're a student, you can simply ask, hey, I'm looking to learn more about X, fill in the blank, and I can learn a lot from there. So networking is huge. The hit rates aren't always great. When I was networking to get into investment banking, I think I had like a 10% hit rate. I would send 100 emails and get 10 responses. Maybe I was able to get 5 to 7 meetings from those responses. And that's an intimidating number, but you got to just, kind of keep at it. The second big piece of advice I'd say is, fail fast, fail often. I think people get a little afraid of failure, and I've certainly been there, but the more you can learn and grow and continue to achieve from those failures, I think the better professional and more well-rounded person you're going to be. So success is great. It's fun to be on that side of it. I think you learn more from the failures and can correct things. And as a student, it's never a better time. I founded 3 companies when I was a student at Michigan State through the entrepreneurship program, and they all failed. None of them are still around. None of them lasted much longer than a couple of years. But at the same point in time, the lessons I took away from that were so crucial. And then the third and final piece I would say is, comparison is the thief of joy. And as a student, it can be easy to see other students getting certain internships or having certain opportunities that you might not have. And you don't want to get caught up in that mindset of comparing all the time. And the more you can focus on yourself and your path and, your personal and professional development, you'll achieve, what you want to achieve when you work hard. So keeping the spotlight focused on you and just continuing to move forward is huge.
Yeah. Great advice. I love hearing all of those. And I really like the idea of, I've always heard failing on your face, right? So kind of like falling on your face, except, you want to fail forward. And I think it's a great thing to touch on is like always trying to learn from those failures.
Yeah. There was a Les Brown quote. He's a motivational speaker. He said, when you fail, try to fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, and you keep pushing. So that's key.
I like that. Yeah. And you mentioned the entrepreneurship club right there briefly. Where do you think your entrepreneurial mindset really came from? Was it growing up, an experience you had, or just, kind of a passion you found later on?
Yeah, so a lot of it for me came from my family. So if I go up the family tree, I think I'm a 3rd or 4th kind of generation entrepreneur. So my father's a small business owner. He purchased that business from his father. On my dad's side, his mom, I think it was her great grandfather, started an atomizer company, which is the old kind of antique perfume spray. DeVilbiss atomizers, it was called. So it's really unique to kind of go down that family tree and see it almost in the bloodline. But even as a young kid, I'd tell a story. Livestrong bracelets when I was a kid used to be really big, and they used to sell them for $1 as kind of a charitable thing. And there was a shoe store in the town that I grew up in that sometimes you could find them. It was such a hot commodity; it was really hard to find. And I would buy them for $1 and I would sell them for $5. And that was a fun little introduction to entrepreneurship. So having the financial freedom, having the personal freedom was always intriguing, but I think a lot of it just, was around my dad growing up and seeing the way he did things and wanting to have, a similar career.
Yeah. So it sounds like, even from a young age, you knew there was something in you that just, you wanted to be, your own boss and have the freedom to really make those decisions on your own.
Yeah, a lot of it was being impact driven too. I think if people chase entrepreneurship or chase success, however you define success, there's obviously a lot of definitions of it. It can lead you to some interesting places, but if you truly focus on just providing value and whatever that is that you do, I think it's going to be a more fulfilling career. And I think you're going to be more satisfied with what you do, entrepreneurial or not. So for me, working in investment banking was great. It gave me a great background and kind of professional launch pad, if you will. But certainly thereafter being impactful with, the team that we have and supporting our team members and being able to be impactful in the places we work is really fulfilling.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, the teams that you've built with each of your companies, how'd you find them? Were they, through alumni, just connections you made throughout school, or was it more of just recruiting websites and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was a mix. I think there was key people that kind of came to mind and came to heart when I was, building a team. There was one individual specifically I really felt on my heart to reach out to. I'm a very faith-oriented person, so I would say there's a very strong spiritual component of that. And I remember reaching out to her, and she had actually just had a conversation with her husband about wanting to do something different and be more impactful. And that was a really cool connection point. And the most fulfilling thing for me is when someone takes a step of faith to join, something I'm doing, whether it's, the business I ran before, or the demo business or the fund. It is a partnership, and you want to, provide for them with a salary and benefits and all that good stuff, but they're making a big life and a big career decision. So some of it has come through that way. Some of it's just recruiting. I think if you can cast a vision and you can make that come to life in a job post and you interview a number of people, you can see which ones fit the culture and don't fit the culture. In New York, we used to say, I'll change so it's not quite as crude, but we used to say you can't teach someone not to be a jerk. You can teach someone how to do the job, as complex or as simple as it is, but teaching someone to really alter their personality or character is something that's really hard to do. So even today, the demo business is a tough business. It's tough to find people that are capable and willing to show up every day and all that stuff. But if you can build the culture and really forecast how you want things to go, I think over time you'll attract the right people. But you can't be wavering on it. You got to be firm in your commitment that you're building something, and your value and your character are paramount, and hopefully you find the right people along the way to join that vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a similar thing growing up. Like playing basketball, I'd always hear you can't teach height. You can teach someone how to play basketball, but you can't teach someone to be tall. So kind of
Yeah,
the same thing. You can't change somebody's personality there. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so I really like that.
That's a good one.
But yeah. Well, Brock, really last question for you here. What are some steps you took while finding your success in all these roles that really, kind of helped you, do you think?
Yeah, I think it compounds a little bit from, the advice. I think networking, when people interview for a role, so frequently the question's asked, why do you want this role? Like investment banking, a
Hmm.
very frequent question is, why do you want to be in investment banking? For someone who's never been in it, it's hard to answer that question. But for me, it became easier because I had a number of internships that weren't investment banking that I could say, well, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z because I've done X, Y, and Z and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't a good fit, maybe is a better way to say it. At the same point in time, if you network with a ton of people, you can learn from what they do and what their professions are without having to actually go and do that yourself. So it's like, oh, I didn't want to be in, equity research because I talked to them and it didn't seem as interesting. Similar to wealth management, right? Having the
Yeah.
conversations and seeing what's interesting, what's not interesting. Wealth management certainly an interesting and a little bit of a different career than a lot of roles in finance. But the more people you can talk to in the industry, the better kind of game plan that you would have. So I
Yeah.
think that's a huge one. For me, I guess I was unique that I kind of knew what I wanted to do long term. And then it was really just a matter of building back, kind of year by year, kind of the 10-year plan, 5-year plan. It's definitely not linear. I mean, if I was looking to the future when I was a student, I wouldn't have been able to tell you all the different steps to where I got. I'm not overly surprised, I guess, that I'm at where I'm at because it's what I wanted to do. And I worked hard to achieve that. And certainly had, my guiding faith to have that opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Um, but no matter what you want to do, and even if you don't know what you want to do, the most important thing is starting. Most
Yeah.
important thing is just putting one foot in front of the other. Like I told the students last night, there's no professional opportunity you're going to have that's a bad one unless you make it a bad one. A lot of people go into investment banking and they're there for a year, and then they go do something else, and that's fine for them. I was in it, a decent amount longer than that, but at the same point in time, if you make it a negative experience, it's going to be a negative experience. But if you are truly focused on extracting value and learning from what you're doing, no matter what you do, even if it isn't perfectly aligned, is going to be a great, toolkit builder and a great stepping stone for getting closer to what you want to do.
Yeah.
A really good quote is, it took me 10 years to be an overnight success. And while I consider myself well short of a, success, there's a lot of work still to do. We're coming up on that, 10-year mark since I graduated. And
Yeah.
when students or people look at, my LinkedIn or look at what I've done, I'm humbled by the fact they think I've achieved something. But at the same point in time, it took a lot of time to get to where I'm at, and a lot of hard work and long hours in New York and sleepless nights and everything else. But you trust the process, you keep moving forward, and with hard work, I think you can achieve anything you want to.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'm not the first to say it. I think you have found success, maybe not your version, but you've accomplished a lot of great stuff, and I love seeing that. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a daily battle. You got to earn it every day. When we would
oh
have
yeah.
workouts, back in school, there was a big sign on the back of the football building, weight room. It said, "The green jerseys earned, never given." And I think that's
Mhm.
really true. You got to show up every day. You got to earn it. The Mark Cuban quote, you got to work like someone's working 24 hours to take it away from you. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that mentality and you get kind of lax with what you're doing, things have never been more competitive professionally. And there's a lot of great opportunity with AI and everything else, but you gotta show up and earn it every day because it's not given.
Yeah. Well, Brock, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you again, and hopefully that time you'll find your version of success. But
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
yeah,
pleasure being here, and thanks for the opportunity.
yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, take care.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSU WMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.